This will be a bit different from your typical lens review. I'm not going to read off the spec sheet, nor am I going to lick the barrel to see if it passes a taste test. The purpose of this video is to share with all of you tests that I performed for myself to test the overall consistency of this lens. My experience with variable aperture lenses hasn't been great. The lenses that I used always seem to suffer from inconsistencies in both image quality and sharpness. I always had to find that sweet spot, that combination of f-stop and focal length that delivered the best results. Now, these experiences have caused me to avoid variable aperture lenses over the years. However, when I do use them, the approach that I take is I find out what the fastest f-stop is at the longest zoom range. Then from there, I step it down to the first full stop. One of the big reasons is I cannot stand when my exposure changes as I zoom in and out because of the variable aperture. Sometimes this will actually annoy me more than the inconsistencies in image quality. As this lens goes down to f6.3 at 600 mil, I will usually stop it down to f8, and that is where I leave it 99.9% of the time when I'm using it, no matter what the focal range is. Even though the samples you're going to see later in this video will cycle through the various f-stops, I personally only ever work at f8. Now, if you got better things to do and you don't want to watch the whole video, I'll give you the too long didn't read. I like this lens. I really do like it a lot. I like it because my copy has been consistent across the entire zoom range. When I returned to full frame for photography, I set a budget for each of the lens types that I wanted. And this lens fit within my budget. It has delivered consistent exposures that I have been very pleased with. It is also the only variable aperture lens I have in my entire collection, so that should tell you something. I won't bore you with useless commentary or opinions. I've already made it crystal clear where I stand on this lens, but I want you, the viewer, to make up your own mind with the information that is being provided in this video. The first set of tests will cycle through each of the focal lengths as it's listed on the barrel. At each focal length, I started at the fastest available f-stop, and then from there, I cycled through each full f-stop until reaching f22. The second set of samples will cycle through 3 f-stops that each focal length has in common: f8, f11, and f16. And in case you're wondering, I did intentionally leave out f22 because as a wildlife photographer, I have never once ever that I can recall stopped down that far while in the field. And now that I think about it, I don't remember the last time I stepped down to f16 either. And at each of those 3 f-stops, you'll see samples for each of the focal lengths as it's listed on the barrel. I will leave a link in the description where you can browse and even download the samples for closer inspection. That's enough of my babbling. Let's get started. I did not get this lens for video work, but I shoot a lot of video, so I was curious about a couple things. Firstly, let me say this right up front, this lens is not parfocal, and I did not expect it to be, but it would have been kind of cool to focus on a subject and go from 60 to 600 and back again. That might have been fun, but sadly, it's not parfocal. But that's also not a point against this lens either, because that was not one of my requirements. The second thing I was curious about was focus breathing. I feel my copy did a pretty good job of managing focus breathing throughout the entire focal range. Even if it didn't, this is not something that concerns me, but on the off chance I ever use this for video, it is good to know about. One note I want to gloat about with this lens is when I said earlier it fit into my budget. I set a budget for super telephoto lenses of $2,000. So this, which is normally listed at around $19.99, just fit right within that budget. However, I got this at $500 off from B&H. No joke, I think some YouTuber bought this lens, did one of those stupid unboxing videos, and then set it back, and then B&H just listed it for $500 off. There was nothing wrong with this lens. It's functioned perfectly, and it came in $500 under my budget, which I didn't manage to waste that $500 on something else, like a good photographer would. But overall, I am really happy with this lens. I'm happy with the deal I got on it. And paired with the Lumix S5 Mark II, it's been great. It's a really great wildlife photography lens. Now, I do hope this information was useful to at least one of you out there so you can make an informed decision before making your next purchase or not making your next purchase. As always, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you again next time.